Hello, and welcome to Let's Get Into It. And today, I'm going to get into it with
Teachers!
Laugh a little, learn a lot, say what you feel, give it your shot. From small talk sparks to deep dives in good conversations. Let's begin. Let's get into it.
So today we have, you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
So I'm Rhonda.
I'm Stacy.
And I'm Sabina.
Welcome, friends. So coming up quickly, I'm going to be going into the classroom. And I thought, what better way to prepare than to talk to teachers about classroom management strategies. So I'm going to go back around. If you can tell me a little brief history of your teaching experience.
So I was a high school English teacher for 24 years at Sanger High School. Taught some people at this table.
Sure did.
And so my experience is mostly secondary. So I taught 9th grade through 11th grade.
Amazing. Okay.
I have been a teacher for 6 years, and I've been in transitional kindergarten for 2. And then I also have taught 2nd grade and 1st grade.
Nice.
And I've been in education for 22 years, and 13 of them were in elementary, 5th and 6th special education, a few in kindergarten, and a few in 1st grade.
All over.
Well, thank you.
Perfect. So, and then also you are now district instructional specialist. So that means you get to teach teachers. And maybe there have been a few times where you've had to use some classroom management strategies in your own class
Absolutely.
and your own PD
For adults.
for adults.
Mhm.
So I think from littles to bigs,
Absolutely.
you need it all.
Mhm.
Yeah. But so I would like to start with, so as I've researched this, I've come across different strategies that people use. You have you set your routine beginning of the day. You let your kids know what your expectations are. You set them up for that. You let them know what's coming next. And then you have reward, consequence, things like that. But I thought the best thing to do, rather than just read it in a book, is to talk to boots on the ground, teachers in the classroom, and see what actually works in real life. So, what has either worked, something that has stood out to you that has either worked great when you first began teaching and then maybe has changed with time in different classrooms? Because also I feel like every year it changes, right? So you have a brand new class and brand new students and kids that are coming from all kinds of different backgrounds and cultures and everything. So what has been something that has worked for you every time, or something that you've had to change with time?
Go for it.
Okay, I'll start with this one. Something that kind of a tried and true is just kids love praise. They love to be the center of attention. That's just who they are, and especially with the littles. So if I see that I have a bunch of kids who are off task, I will find one kid and just call it out. Hey, so and so, I really like the way that you are following X rule or Z rule. And then all of a sudden, all of the other 20 kids, they just get in line. You don't have to call them out. You find the one kid who's doing what they should be doing, praise them either just verbally, or we have like PBAS stuff, like sword tickets is what we have at our school. So, oh, I like the way you're doing this. Here's a sword ticket. And then they all want to do they want to do the thing that the kid's doing.
We
So
want a ticket.
that is something that I have found always works really well, especially with the littles.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I think building relationships with your students is really important because knowing what they're into or how they receive feedback, because some kids you give them a look and then that's all you need for redirection. Some kids, it's, a conversation. But it's also important to have those relationships with families too,
Mm.
because then they know they can trust you and they know, like, if you are making a phone call home, you try to make those positive ones. But then when there's stuff that you need to talk to them about, they're usually really receptive to it. Yeah, I think that's really beneficial.
Perfect. And I would say both of
Mhm.
those, and that they go hand in hand, right? So you have relationships with kids, you echo positive behavior so that the whole class can hear that Savina's doing a great job of sitting in her seat today. But also, I think one of the things that helps, that I didn't know when I started teaching, that I learned over time, was consistency. And so, like, it's a lot like parenting. When you say that these are the boundaries or these are the rules, you have to implement what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, they know, and they run all over you.
Yeah. They
Mhm.
smell the blood in the
They
water.
smell the blood
They
in the
do.
water, and I believe that's
Mhm.
any age,
Mhm.
right?
Any age.
So I think that the big kids know it. And so, yeah, consistency, being consistent with whatever your expectations are, is a big deal.
That's something that I was curious about, is having, obviously it's going to be different elementary to high school, but is it? Like a lot of things stay the
Yeah.
same. They're not going to get sore tickets, but
Yeah.
obviously praise is going to work, and building relationships, I think,
Mhm.
really matters, especially at that age.
Mhm.
And all kids like attention, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that if they know that you have clear expectations, and that your motives with them are pure, like, I am
Mhm.
here to help you, and I want to support you, and I don't think it matters what grade that is. I think big kids
Mhm.
like the support and the praise as well.
Mhm.
And I really believe that that's where it starts with the relationships. If you have a good relationship with your students, then they are more likely to behave. It doesn't
Mhm.
happen every day.
Mhm.
Kids can love you and have bad days, right? Just
Yeah.
like people. But if they know that you are on their side, and that doesn't mean you give in, it doesn't mean but you are on their side and you are fair,
Mhm.
then they're more likely to fall in line.
Yeah. And Friday is May 1st, and I still go over my expectations of what a line should look like every time we line up. Which way should our eyes face? Which way should our feet go? What should you do with your hands? And so you set the expectation. And if they're not meeting it, you draw out what's going to happen if they don't meet the expectation before you dismiss them to go line up. And usually it's your favorite student that just, they want to push that boundary, and you're like, oh, why you? Go sit down. Oh, sit down. So it's just constant reinforcement of your expectations and not letting up at all. Because if there's even just this slight window to creep in, they're going to take it. They're so smart. They're so smart.
Yeah, that's, for me, going or beginning the journey and the adventure, if you will,
For sure, an adventure.
um, of going into a classroom and, like, these are now, you are in charge
Yeah.
of 25 to 35 kids. I cannot imagine what that would even entail. Even, I think, as I'm going into, student teaching, I'm going in a classroom with a mentor. I don't know. It's a totally different ballgame when you're by yourself.
Mhm.
And so, how do you prepare for that? What was that like for you when you first like, what was that first day for you when you stepped into a classroom and they're like, you are in charge now? What did that feel like? What was that like? What was the experience? What worked? What failed? I mean, that's all real quick,
Yeah, just real quick.
In a nutshell.
what was their whole experience?
Yeah.
I think what's hard is you want these kids to like you. You want them to
Mm.
love you. And when you're first starting out, you don't realize that they're going to, regardless of whether you are strict, whether you're lenient. they love you anyway because you are their safe space. And so for me, I tried to play it off like, oh, I'm going to be the cool teacher. No, backfired immediately. You just could not be lenient, and because they figure it out and they're just like, oh, well, I don't have to do that. She's not going to do anything. And so I had to really like just say, no, that's what you want. This is what you want to see in your class. So stop trying to be their friend. It's kind of like when you're a mom, you're not there to be their friend. You're there to be their mom, to teach them, to guide them. And it'll work out. Just expectations.
And you can lighten up, but it's hard to go in reverse, right?
Yes.
So if you present yourself as, and I would say this happens with the big kids too, like, oh, she is the cool teacher. She doesn't care that I'm tardy. No, I just maybe didn't see you that one time, or there were other things going on. Don't take advantage. But kids really, like, in their mind, they think, oh, she doesn't care. Yeah. So you have to, and one of the things I think happens often with new teachers is over expectation in terms of rules. So it's the same thing, like starting rules that or expectations or procedures that you are impossible to follow through with. So you have to be very thoughtful about what you want to do. What is going to be the most important? And that there's no rule that says that you can't add more rules as you go forward as situations come up. But it's like, if you overload with rules or expectations at the beginning of the year, depending on the age group, but even with big kids, they're not going to process all of that. And if it's the first day of school and they're getting there and they're hearing at the high school level from 5 or 6 different teachers, these are the rules for my class. And then they go to the next class, and there's no way for them to process that. So I would say be careful and selective with what you choose to talk about. And then support that as you go forward, as there's a new situation. The high school kids don't line up either. They do not know how to walk quietly to the library. They certainly don't, so it happens all the time. And so then you're like, what? I have to tell these kids how to line up and walk like normal people to the library in high school. But if it happens, you have to.
Yeah.
And so you roll it out as you go, but don't overrule.
A balance.
Yes.
Delicate
Yeah.
balance.
And and depending on the age, your expectations really do have to be age appropriate. And with my kiddos, a lot of my classroom expectations are things that I have had to physically model. What does it look like to sit nicely on a carpet? Well, let me show you, friends. And I'm down there in my little purple square crisscross applesauce, with my hands in my lap. So I make sure that it's things that I can physically show them. It's not something that's vague or that they have to wonder, oh, what does she mean by that? It's clear, it's cut. There's visuals of what I want it to look like. So at any time, if someone is not following an expectation, they can just say, oh, what's the rule right here? And they know it. And then you can say, well, show me. And they can do it. So,
well, yeah, because everyone learns differently. So like just by telling you to do something, some kids aren't gonna, it's not gonna be the best approach, but you model, you show them, here's a video, here's a letter.
Yeah.
I've sent a pigeon. I've done all the things. But I think follow through is just,
And I
works every time.
think when you're like in your first days, you're by yourself, it's your first, you're super excited. You're like, oh my gosh, this is my classroom. I got it decorated. I have the name tags on the tables. Like you're really like excited to start the year. And then, you're ready with those expectations. You're ready to go. But I think it's okay along the way too. Like it's not easy. Some days are harder than others, especially in the beginning. And so I think it's really important to be able to ask questions of other people and like for support. So if you are having some difficulty with anything in your classroom, it's good to kind of have somebody that you can go to be able to lean on. and even if it's sometimes just like, I just need to talk to you about this, it's good to
Yes.
have that support.
And we all have horror stories.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, there are.
Oh my
Share
gosh.
You want to
some.
hear some horror
Oh my
stories?
gosh.
There are always horror stories that you leave the classroom at the end of the day and you think, did I do that? Did that?
Those words come
And
out of my mouth.
yeah, that was bad. That was inappropriate.
Mhm.
And it's okay because we're
Mhm.
human.
Mhm.
But I know like some of the things that it's always in weird well, maybe not always, but often it is in weird, out of the ordinary situations. Rainy days provide a lot of problems.
Oh,
And I don't think that is unique to
Mm.
just the littles. Big kids get weird
Mm.
when there are natural disaster events kind of happening. Everybody wants to go outside and look at the weather. Now, with lockdowns and things like that, people get super unsettled. Kids get super nervous.
Yeah.
And so how to deal with that. But one of the things I learned really quickly is like when a kid is having a bad day, you don't want to back them into a corner. You want to remove them from the situation. So I was very big on asking, and I have big kids, right? So please step outside. Let's have a quick conversation, right? Because sometimes the audience amplifies the behavior, right? And so they start performing and I start performing, and then and I think that was one of my worst circumstances was like I totally backed a kid into a corner and she came at me. And I was like, so it's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Being prepared for anything. I think what it is for me, reading all the stuff, having the conversations, especially with you guys, just throughout the day and your experiences. And I think it's just a big part of it is just being flexible and not being so rigid that it breaks
Yes.
or you just like fall apart.
You have to
or
pivot.
Yeah.
You have to
Move them. There are always flexibility.
flexibility,
Yes.
a good high kick.
good
Yeah.
I mean, being able to, you don't have to do that in the classroom, but
No,
you know what I mean?
But also that's a redirect. I'm really big on redirects and behavior problems in the classroom, right?
Mhm.
So like direct the attention elsewhere. A high kick would do exactly that.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it would.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I think, you know. But one of the other things I was going to say is in terms of management, student engagement, making sure your kids are into what they're doing is going to help problems with behavior in classrooms and classroom management, right? So like if what they're doing, we are not intended to entertain, but we are in many ways entertainers. And so the best way to keep kids going and eager to learn is by giving them something that truly gets their attention, makes them curious, fosters those things. And so one of the ways that you do that is by hooking their attention. So if perhaps you're a good storyteller, and I strongly believe in constructive learning. So meaning that if I can connect with their learning to something that exists in their real worlds, in pop culture or whatever, they're more likely to engage. And so finding hooks that work that way, I think helps keep your classroom management running smoothly.
Never underestimate the power of proximity either, because sometimes you just got to stand by them. Teach standing there right by them. So when I was teaching second grade, I actually had a rolly desk and I would just roll all around the classroom. So I could be by any student at any time and I had all my stuff right there. And so it's amazing how quick kids will be quiet if the teacher's standing right next to them.
That's amazing.
It's good stuff. You don't have to say anything. Just carry on with your day. And
Yep.
I did read somewhere, that was one of the things, is ignore the behavior, because sometimes, right, not everything needs a reaction. And if you just you're cutting off oxygen to the fire, I guess, where you're just like, yeah, no. And then, the behavior peters out. And some things, obviously, you have to have a reaction to. But I think for me, and even with my own kids, is like learning to just chill out a little bit,
Mhm.
and not everything's a 10
Mm-hmm.
or a 911. Not
Yeah.
everything is appropriate to call 911 over
Mhm.
or act like it's a 911 emergency. So I think for me personally, that's going to help me. Just, sometimes it's okay.
Yeah. And you'll get there because otherwise you're going to be exhausted at the end of it. It's going to take all your effort just
And-
putting out these fires that don't need to be big fires.
Wheel me out to the car.
And
Yeah.
I remember specifically I had a student who really was really hard for him to sit still. Like he had to be moving, moving, moving. And this is way before fidget spinner. This is a long time, like when I was first, started teaching. And so he had his space in the back of the carpet where he could move around. And I knew he was focused because every now and then I was, check for understanding. And he knew exactly like what I was talking about and where I was in the lesson. But I think that allowed him that space, being 5 years old and
Mm-hmm.
just, and I talked to the parents about it and they were supportive about it. So at least it wasn't like, well, I'm placing him in the back because of this reason. No, he's still on the carpet with everybody else. He just had a little bit larger space for himself, or he could sit in a chair if he wanted to. And but that flexibility, right? Because if I expected him to sit crisscross applesauce, I mean, that to me would be torturous for him. And he learned and he did well. And so I think we have to be sometimes open-minded to these types of things too.
Well, and that's where like the flexibility and like the relationships with kids come in, because the better you know your students, you make those accommodations and connections with parents and explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, but you allow them to learn. And I think when you were talking about 911, so in education, that's you call the office, you send a kid out, you do those things. And one of the things that I learned was my first year of teaching, I was told by veteran teachers, call home the first week for bad behavior, and it will spread like wildfire. And it did. Nobody ever said anything about positive phone calls, and it really broke my heart. And I started making positive phone calls, and those spread like wildfire too. So I think kids are very aware of our reactions. So if our reaction is 911, like if we flip out and send a kid out, the message can be that I can provoke her or him or the authority in the room, and then they know how to do that. Like it's
then
like
I'm outta here.
inadvertently, we're teaching them that this will work, and then I'm out of here. Yeah, then I can quit for the day. So so figuring out a way to ignore what you can. I used to go plop down next to kids too. Proximity is like my favorite classroom management tool. So if somebody wasn't paying attention and we were reading as a class, scoot. Everybody scoot. I'm sitting here by my buddy.
Yeah.
They hate that.
Yes.
Yep.
Nothing like the teacher sitting right next to you.
Yep.
Super cool.
And sometimes I would say, well, I think you wanted my attention, right? Like you wanted
got
my
it.
attention and I'm right here. Just right cozied up next to you.
Let's talk.
And so sarcasm works too.
Yeah.
I think age appropriate, you have to be aware of your audience, but
Mine are not there yet.
the big kids get it for sure.
I told one the other day that if he didn't figure out how to get in a line, that he was going to be in hot water when he got to kindergarten. And he said, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? They're going to put me like in hot water?" And I'm like,
Yes.
"No, friend.
sorry.
No, sorry about that. Yeah,
No,
you're going to be in trouble."
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're still coming around.
They
They
a
got to
while.
take a little while to catch up on those.
They're more literal.
Yeah, a little more
Mhm.
literal.
Mhm.
But I think high school and you can get away with a little more sarcasm.
More.
Yeah, for sure.
It works.
Yes.
Humor works.
Yes.
Well, let's hope.
It's a good redirect. I think you'll be good.
Yeah. I think once you learn your audience, you'll be much better equipped.
Yes.
Still in the classroom.
And and you do need to know your audience, because the things that are funny to us may not be like the hot water.
Yeah.
Oh, and sometimes kids will play teacher at home,
Okay.
and then the parents learn. who each student is in the class with all their stuffed animals and they're teaching
Yep.
And how you are.
Yep.
and yes.
Yeah.
So
I had a mom ask if I asked the kids to catch a bubble. And I said, I do. Yeah, that's how I get him to be quiet. And she's like, yeah, he told me the other day to put a bubble in my mouth. And I was like, oh,
Or a taco.
absolutely, that works, you know. I was like, sorry about that. Didn't mean for him to use it on you, Mom.
Know your audience, sir.
yes.
Yes.
Gosh. Well, I think as we wrap this up, I think the one thing, if I could ask all of you, is what advice would you give to a teacher walking into their very first classroom? Take a moment. Take a moment. Or what would you have wished someone would have told you when you were walking into the classroom?
I would say just take it all in. Like enjoy I just remember my first day. I was so excited. Like I would tell people, I cannot believe I get paid to do this job. Like it was my dream. And hang on to that because then you know like your purpose and your why. Like I know they always say your why, but that's something that you can carry in your heart and just carry that with you that first day, that positivity, but then also learn who your people are, like learn your support system, like know your PLCs, your partner teachers, know like other people on campus that are going to give you your support, know the office, you know, the admin assistants, you know, be able to talk to your principal, have those relationships with people because they can be there for you because they've either been through it too, or, you know, you could seek their advice. So
well, I think this is important as establishing relationships with your kiddos. I think it's just as important establishing relationships with your coworkers, the staff, you know, because you're in the grind. Just to bring it back to me for a second. I worked at the court for 15 years and then quit because why not? And then when I had not, been at an elementary school site for many years and then went and subbed in the front office, I thought I was in Vietnam. It was wild. I had never been more stressed in my entire life. And I had worked with the public for many, many years. Hundreds of people would come in at the court and I did not want to be there. I remember it was like the first week and I saw the principal and the CSP carrying a child in. One was in the front, one was in the back as he tried to bite and scratch and hit them. And I know the kid you're talking about. And I thought, I found my home. These are my people, my people.
It takes a special person,
Yes,
let me
it
tell you.
Yes.
I was like, I would like to go to war every day. I'm just kidding. But it was crazy, but in the best way. And that was, from the perspective of being in the office. So I cannot even imagine all the ups and downs that you go through in the classroom. But I mean, I had a blast. I will say that. But so yeah, I think that that's important to have relationships with people because we all see the stuff everybody's going through.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. Elementary school sites are like their own little kingdoms,
Little war zones.
and I mean, war zones and circus parade, however you want to.
Yeah.
Kingdom.
You know, you really have to give yourself a lot of grace too, because you can put a perfect lesson on paper or your slides or however you want to do it. And sometimes it doesn't work out and it's going to crush you. And you're going to be like, but I worked so hard on this.
This is perfect.
But sometimes it's just not for them. It's
Yeah.
just, everything you envision doesn't come to life. And so just give yourself grace. And I would say there are times when you're like, man, I really thought I was doing my best. And there's just some kids who don't get it. And you have to really dig and you have to be resourceful to try and reach every single student. And sometimes they don't move, but when they do move, it's so freaking cool. Their progress, one day it just clicks, it takes off, and you're like, I did that.
I did that.
So give yourself grace when times are hard because it will come around. It will. And you work and you just keep trying and it'll all work out. And teaching the actual kids is such a small part of what we do as teachers. It really
did
is.
see that from where my vantage point.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They are literal superheroes.
Yeah,
to be.
just all of the analyzing that you have to do of what your kids work on and where are you
The
taking.
data.
Yes,
Where's the data?
it really is though, because it makes you dive really deep into what they need. And you'll get to where you're like, oh, I haven't even done this yet, but I already know that this kid is going to need this before I even start teaching. So you're going to know these kids like the back of your hand. You really will.
And
You'll
then
get to
right
know them.
when it gets perfect, they're going to move on to the next.
Yeah.
Correct. And then you get to start over. Then you get to start over. And
Fresh
everything's
fruit.
fine.
Try again.
Everything's fine.
Everything's great.
And you're a great teacher when they give you those challenging kids.
oh,
True.
So your
True.
class, the one class that, that almost took me out, I said, oh, my principal must think I'm great.
I am amazing. No, that was happened to you, but also there was another teacher, her first year, baby teacher, and she was brand new, and she had come in because a very seasoned teacher had been there for quite a while, left the site, and they put her in. Well, classes had already been made. She came in a little later.
Oh,
Yeah, classes had already been assigned, and they specifically assigned that class to that teacher, the more challenging students, and I mean the most challenging.
Yes.
And this is when I worked in the library, and she would come in and just like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could. I'm like,
Yep.
you're fine. You got this. I didn't know if she had it, but
You were supportive.
You were
But on the so let me tell you, on the last day of school, those kids were all bawling because they had to say bye to her.
yes,
Because she had formed the relationship with her. And she did it. She was crying just as hard as them.
Yes.
So there were kids where I thought, oh, not that one, but they were so sad to see her go. So
Well, and then after
sometimes it's
that,
the more challenging ones.
yeah, they get you like literally.
Yes.
It's like Vietnam. But I seeing her the year after when she, even that first year, the second year, she was like piece of cake.
Yep.
Yep, these kids, yep, piece of cake. And I'm like, they really are compared.
Yep.
Like you'll never have a class like that again. It was wild. Wild. And I watched her struggle, but like she did not give up. She just kept, literally out of the pit, climbed out of the pit, and it paid off big time. And so I was like, okay, wow. Look at you did it. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The value.
Yes.
I would say that like the most important lesson to remember, and it'll keep you going on the days when you feel like you're crawling out of the pit and when you don't know how to look at the data and you're not like everything's falling on me, is to remember that it's how you behave with them, how you treat them as people, that they will remember more than what you're teaching them. And if you go back and you think about your teachers and you think about what you learned from them, it's not going to be the math or the book that we read, maybe a little bit here and there, the book we read, but you're going to remember the funny things that they said, or or the way that they treated you, or the way that they treated other people. And so if you remember that these are little humans that you have in your charge who will love you, even if they act like they don't at the beginning, then I think that's what keeps us going, right? Like we are their safe space. And that's what I would say, because in that there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. And again, just to circle back to me,
Always.
our
Let's get back there.
any opportunity I get,
Right there.
I will say I had Rhonda as my teacher.
Mhm.
And again, I remember some of the things, right? You remember some of the things, but the memory that sticks out for me,
Thanks.
first of all, iconic. The bangs are iconic. And for those of you that don't know, Rhonda rocks amazing bangs and has since I was in high school. And it works. But the thing I remember is when you read an essay that you wrote about your son
Mm-hmm.
and the bell rang, but and so kids were going out, but there was a couple of several people, and we stayed and you finished reading, and I was just like, oh my God, she's like an actual human being with feelings and family and all these big emotions and
Mhm.
but you don't the kids thought I lived in the library when I was there. So, it doesn't, that changes over time, but not much because I was in high school and I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
She has a whole life.
Mhm.
She doesn't live here in the classroom.
Wait till they see you at Walmart.
I know,
No,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Why are you there?
It's wild.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, a celebrity sighting.
Yes, there you paparazzi.
Yes.
And then it's, you remember when I saw you at Walmart? And then you're totally dressed disgusting.
Disgusting.
Yes.
Maybe you're buying beer.
I mean, maybe.
The real deal.
But yeah, that's I remember I just thought of you as a human, as a person, and was like, I like her, but especially those bangs. Legendary. But yeah, it's the most, I mean, across any relationship, it's how you make people feel. That's what they remember. And I think that's the one thing to take away is just to treat people and the kids and your students like they matter, that, you want what's best for them, that they're safe with you. But yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah, perfect. But so thank you so much for joining me. And until next time.
Next time.
Next time.